We're live and direct. The Herman Stewart Mentoring Show. We're here once again, and I'm really excited about today's show. I've got a really interesting guest, and I've always got interesting guests, in a sense of really looking forward to talking to practitioners, to experts, to thought leaders, to people that are leading practice in their field, and people that are individuals and got their own personalities as well. That's always very important and very interesting for me. So today, I will be speaking to an award-winning, um, like when I say award winning, she's a winning this award, winning that award. She's a finalist here, finalist there. She's an expert in early years, and she's an anti-racist trainer and consultant and business owner and mom and all of the other things all together. So I want to say welcome to Liz Pemberton. How are you today, Liz?
Oh, Herman, what an introduction. And it's the first time somebody's introduced me in this capacity as a mom. And that means a lot because, some of you may be aware I'm just coming back off maternity leave now. So this is my first foray as a new mom back into work. And so it really means a lot that you also included that title. But it's really lovely to hear yourself spoken about in that way. So listen, I'm good. I'm as excited as you are to have this conversation.
I really am, and I think that's a beautiful place to start anyway. About new baby, new mum. I reached out to you a good amount of months ago, and I didn't know the big news flash that you was on maternity leave. When you was very courteous and you just let me know like it's gonna be in May. It's gonna be in May. So, how has it been being a new mom?
Oh, it's always very cliche. I think when this question is asked, when I've heard it before being a mother, you hear the same kinds of responses. It is beautiful, it is joyous, it is life changing, it's life expanding, it's life affirming. And it has been all of
Mm,
those things for me. It has been something that has really impacted my personal being. The way in which I
mm,
see life now is totally shifted. And I've always said, no amount of professional practice, theory, books that I have read, advice that I have given to parents over the years that I've been doing this work in the early years, nothing has prepared me for being this little boy's mother. And we are now a year on, he's 1 year old now, and he is the light of my life. It's
mm,
been very, very, very exciting. That's the
mm.
word. But not without its challenges. I should also say that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm learning new things.
I'm just trying to think of that stage. Winding, nappies,
Woo!
milk,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, my eldest now, she's 24, my
Wow.
eldest. Then I've got three girls
Mm-hmm.
myself,
Mm-hmm.
24, 17, and 15. And so,
Beautiful.
so I definitely know the feel is not as much as a woman would ever know about the
Mm-hmm.
intimacy of the experience, but I've
Mm.
been very present. I've been there,
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and one thing that really stood out to me, which I really loved, is when I saw your maternity post that was sharing that you're off on maternity, you're gone. I really love that, that old picture, that image. I mean, what inspired that piece of PR?
Because you got to let people know. You've got to be really honest about who you are, what you're doing, and sometimes giving people a sneak peek into the personal, because it ties into the
Mm,
professional, and we cannot separate the two. And certainly, I don't in the work that I've done and the work that I continue to do. Before I am the director of the Black Nursery Manager Training and Consultancy, I am Liz Pemberton. Before I was Liz Pemberton,
mm,
I was Liz Kerr. Before I was Liz Kerr,
mm.
I was Elizabeth Kerr. There have been many
Okay.
different iterations
Wow.
and versions of me, but as I am in this new season of life, that transition between being somebody who's not a mother to being a mother. That pregnancy picture and that shoot that I had done, shout out to Simeon Thor as well, the best photographer in Birmingham. But, you know, that shoot was really important to capture me in the essence of my pregnancy and in the bloom of my pregnancy. I think I just wanted to have a real honest portrait at that time. So yeah, I guess you can look at it in terms of PR, but I was just looking at it in terms of making sure that people really, really knew, you know, I'm pregnant.
Yes, yes. and yeah, I mean, I love what you're saying around just capturing that moment, you know, capturing that moment in your life, capturing that stage, that phase where you was, you know. I thought I thought it was a brilliant way to do it. And the reason I say it's PR because I seen it on LinkedIn and it was a nice picture. It went no selfie. it was staged and nice. And,
Yes.
and it was all as it should be, you know,
Yes.
and it was polished and it was, you know, it was appropriate. So I really liked the way that was done. And what I want to do is go into something that you just said, because you says, you know, before you're the trainer, before you're the manager of the nursery, before you're all of these things, you're Liz Pemberton, and then you even spoke about the different iterations of Liz and what's happened. So my question is, you know, to many people, you are this practitioner, you know, that people, you're award-winning practitioner, speaker, consultant, you're a nursery owner, you're a business owner, you're now a mom, you're a wife, you know, you're a daughter, you're all these different things. But to you, who are you to you?
Who am I to me? To me, I am extremely powerful. I know how to command space, and I know how to ensure that the boundaries that I put up will not be infiltrated. To me, I am very joyous. I am very excitable. I am a bashment lover. I am an avid swearer. I do not, I guess, tend to stick to respectability politics. I can be all things to myself whenever I feel that I need to be. And the thing around, I guess, formally being a nursery manager in Edgbaston, but the Edgbaston that is closer to Ladywood, but was still in the leafy parts, if you like. There is something about really being in the community and ensuring that people could reach me on that really human level, Herman, which has always been a part of my repertoire because it's essential. And people that know me have known me for being, yes, Liz. You know, when people would colloquially, I guess, think about or refer to the nursery, it was like, yeah, Liz's nursery. Or the Black Nursery. Yeah, I know that one. Rotten Park Road. Yeah. So it was that, and it was really kind of made me think about how special it was to honor me and being myself, so that there wasn't this constant switching between like the PR Liz and Liz. There were no secrets. So I really try to honor that and keep it as real as is necessary.
Okay, I really like that. And I want to jump back to your picture, your maternity picture, which was really good. I mean, one of the things that I really loved about it is when you went through the slides, there was one that he says, now that I'm going to be away, these, and you want training, you want specialists, you want experts. These are the people that I recommend that you should get in touch with. These are the people that you endorse. And I felt that was really powerful, you know, and I felt it was really kind and really honoring, you know, especially when you're in arenas, when you're doing work, and sometimes, you know, they can say the crab's in the barrel, or sometimes you can be in a certain setting and it's more competitive, you know, so you're not trying to shine light on the people that's around you and so forth. But that just really showed me something powerful, in a sense of it showed me who you are, it showed me where your heart is, it showed me a level of security, it showed me a number of things, but it also showed me the honor that you had for the different professionals and so forth. What inspired you to do that?
They're my people, you know, simple as that. Craig is my people. Aisha is my people. When I'm thinking about
mm,
Rachel, that's my people. When I'm thinking about Muna, these are my people. Dr. Shaddai,
mm,
that's my people. And so
yeah.
if I can ensure that everybody gets this light, you're gonna get it. If I really kind of look at your work and think, wow, I've learned something from this. I want other people to learn from these people too. I also feel very
Mm,
strongly about the city that I am from, born, bred, Birmingham, all the way. This is really, really important as well, to honor people in our space, in our city,
mm,
and not always have
mm,
this lens where we're looking to the capital, we're looking to London. We have to think about the richness that we have here, and also how we make sure we can signpost people appropriately, because
mm,
it's not to say that all of those practitioners are specifically working in an early years space, but they certainly have things to offer where early years educators can learn. And
mm,
life begins, at that zero mark. So when you're thinking
mm,
about the work of anti-racism, the work of inclusion, the work of pushing back against systems, those are the people that I would always recommend. And I've kept that
mm,
post up. And I commonly, even if people email me now and I don't have the capacity to do that work, I signpost them to that same list. And it's not a list that can never change. Of course, I'm always adding people to that list, but I don't want it to
mm,
be too overwhelming. So
mm,
for me, it's important. There is always room. There is always room for
mm,
us to do what we are doing. There's no need to have a mentality whereby you want to hog everything. It's not productive, and it's not a good way to
mm,
work.
mm. Yeah, and I do agree, and I feel what you've shared about honor. I feel that's powerful, and I want to find out a bit more in a sense of where did you develop that ethos of honor? Because a lot of times people don't really exhibit that ethos. You know, that ethos comes from certain cultures or even the eastern side of this world, or where
Mhm.
honor is like a big thing. Honor is
Yeah.
really important, and I find that a lot of times that there isn't honor, or honor isn't something that's important. But the facts I picked up on that advert was
Mm.
that there was honor. That's what I picked up. And I felt that it was good to see that being done in a professional perspective. So where did you develop that ethos and that conviction that honor is important?
I will always go back to my parents and parenting. The way in which any of us are parented really impacts how we see the world, how we are shaped by the world, and how we go
Mm,
on in the world and live. So I'll always honor my parents, my mom, my dad, and particularly within a professional space. Many of you will know, if you've engaged in my work, that my mom, Yvonne Kerr, was the business owner, is a business owner, and has been in the early years space since the late 80s. And so, in
mm,
terms of that being an integral part of the tapestry of who I am, and business practice, honoring professionalism to an extent in terms of how that works for us, for her, I learned a great
mm,
deal being her shadow. I too am somebody who likes to practice what they preach, but I always remember
mm,
that the parenting that I had really established the way in which I've moved in the world. So I always, pay homage to my mom and to my dad, who, I'm very fortunate to have as very present people in my life then and now. And I
mm,
always think, as I said, a lot of those early childhood experiences that I had really embedded the way in which I honored people around me. But I think,
mm.
particularly, as I said, in the professional space, as a former nursery manager, I learned so much from being very close to my parents.
Mm. Okay, no, that's really good. And to hear, entrepreneurships in the family, that's always lovely, to hear that type of generational pass down is there, because it's very encouraging. And I'm into entrepreneurship myself. I mean, I got a lot of things running through my mind. The things you say, but let's go to you younger. So Liz, what did Liz want to become when she was younger? What was Liz aspiring to be?
When I was younger, Herman, I was really interested in journalism. I've always been a people
Mm,
person. I really like people and I really like speaking. I really like engaging and finding out about people's narratives and their journeys and how they've become who they have become. And from a very early age, I was very interested in just speaking to people. And so journalism was something that was presented to me. And also the art of performance. I'm a theatre kid. Yeah. So drama had always been a part of my early childhood, and acting. So those things really kind of, as I said, formulated this base for me to springboard from. And in that kind of early experience of acting and performing in plays and being part of the Central Junior Television Workshop, being on television at a very early age, these were things that I thought, what a way to start life, what a way to learn how to present, to speak, to engage, but also as well to build confidence, to think about what it means to go for an audition when you're under 10 and get a part or not get a part. How am I learning to navigate disappointment and excitement? What am I doing with those key things? And a lot of that was really kind of instrumental in the work that I'm doing now. But those early years were really shaped by my dad. So, you know, my dad reckoned himself as a Matthew Knowles, if you like. You know, I was his little Beyonce. So, you know, things to do with acting and singing, you know, my dad was there ferrying me up and down. You know, he really wanted me to be the next best thing. And so I had a short stint as well in terms of like a singing career, but being in the studio at an early age, understanding and learning about that and what that does for somebody. You know, these multitudes of experiences really helped me. Now, with hindsight, I can see how impactful those things were. So little Liz was always extra, was always a performer, and always wanted to be in people's business. And that it was very important.
and you just said something, you know, just speaking about your dad, and just his involvement in your life, and it sounds like you and him spent a lot of time together because of your aspirations, or his aspirations, wanted to be able to inspire you to do those things. And it sounds like you've had both experiences. So knowing that you've had both experiences in a sense of growing up with mom and dad, how do you see that the different influences of both parents have impacted you? If you just have a bit of a reflection of being able to look at how have they impacted you? What are some of the attributes or characteristics, or what have you learned or developed from each parent, and what have you received?
So first of all, I recognized from a very early age it was a great privilege to have my mom and my dad in the household, and also for them to be both very influential in terms of how I saw myself. But also, I'm one of three girls, so I'm the eldest of three girls. I also recognized from an early age the dynamic of having one man in the house and then four females. And so it was really interesting thinking about what that did in terms of my perspective of balance, learning the art of sometimes actively listening instead of speaking, because being the eldest, there was always space given for me to speak, but also there was time where I was told, you need to just listen. Give that space for your sisters to be who they are and who they want to be. Don't always dominate. Recognize that there are even opportunities where you can advocate for your sisters. That's fine. But always let them be who they need to be. The balance that I really kind of valued was that balance around this thing that we often perhaps take as a given, these gender roles, which were really never enforced within my household or growing up. There was no such thing as mom does this, dad does that. Everybody does everything. Yeah. And if anything, some of my earliest childhood memories would be around like my dad teaching me how to plait on a My Little Pony doll. My dad making the breakfast, dinner, everything. My dad, still to this day, I can go to my parents' house, as a big 40-plus-year-old woman, and my dad will, be in the kitchen and be like, what do you want to eat? My dad throws down in the kitchen. Yeah. Around traditional gender roles, him raising me with my mother, there wasn't this expectation that we would just clean or we would just, but there were things around having a sense of duty every day, wake up with purpose. There's something that you need to do it. And both of my parents are Jamaican born and came to the country when they were 14. So this expectation around yeah, there's a discipline that you have to make sure that you do keep your bedroom tidy, make sure that the communal areas are also maintained, but everybody was cleaning, not just the girls.
Mm,
And also
mm,
making sure that there were these traditional values that stuck with us. So those early visits
mm,
back to Jamaica, again, something that I recognize was a huge privilege to be able to do that. We would
yes.
regularly go back to Jamaica because, you know, my grandparents were there, but it was seminal
Mm,
in really rooting us as Black children who were
mm,
born in the UK, but having a strong roots to
mm,
grasp and to understand that this can
yeah.
be your home, the UK,
Mm,
specifically, you know, Birmingham, but also recognize that you're going to be in Portland, in Jamaica.
mm,
That's also
mm,
home. You're going to be
mm,
in St. Catherine. That's also home. And
mm,
this knowledge of kind of the multiplicity of identity and how that roots one person to lots of different ways of being, it gives you
mm,
access in a way that I think we should never ever discount, particularly as
yeah.
Black people, and particularly as
Mm,
Black people whose heritage is rooted in different places. So for me personally, those early childhood experiences of having, you know, parents in the house, but also having grandparents who were in Jamaica has really,
mm,
really been kind of something that I'm just very fortunate to have
mm,
experienced, and I'm really grateful for.
yeah. And I really like the way that you broke down just the experience in a sense of it's clear that dad was very um, prominent in a sense of he was present, he was active, he was cooking, he was doing all those different things. It kind of sounds like a bit like my house, you know, to tell the truth. It really does, you know, because I'm outnumbered by you know my queen and my princesses. You know what I mean? I'm outnumbered. Um, but it is a real blessing, and that's what I see that for my daughters, you know what I mean. I see that the first relationship that they can have with a man is platonic. The first relationship that they can have with a man is one where there's no ulterior motives, or they don't need to,
Mhm,
you know, be mindful, or so to speak, and to understand the different genders, because the different genders are they're different. Do you know what I mean? Like there is a
mhm,
different way we think, a different way we
mhm,
operate, or a difference in the details or the things that's important, you know,
mhm.
and just the education of it, because I realize that a lot of things are not taught, a lot of things are caught, and it's about
Yeah.
when you're in an environment, it's you picking up those things and you
Yep.
collecting lessons of life of okay, this is how things work, and then that's kind of that is helping to paint the canvas of your understanding of okay, this is a standard, this is what expected, and as you said, it can be taken for granted, you know,
Mhm,
that really it's not the normality. And that's why I feel it's a real blessing. And that's why I really wanted to ask the question just from your perspective, because I feel because there's times where there's the default where there's men that are not staying around, or for whatever reason, parents part or so forth. Every relationship is not going to be the same. Every narrative is not going to be the same. But at the same time, it feels like, and this is what I hear, or this is what I sense at times through practices, as though a lot of times men are not needed, or a dad isn't needed, you know, and a mum can bring up children as well as a dad. And I understand that, I get it, you know, because there was times in
mhm,
my life that both parents weren't there for me, you know, and
mhm,
that's why it was important that I broke that cycle, or I created a different standard, because I seen that it was a reality. My mom done brilliant. She's
mhm,
amazing, you know. At the same time, I believe what you just said around balance. I think it's that kind of balance, because even with working with a lot of young boys, and you know, I'm doing the mentoring mentors that are working with young boys. A lot of times when they get to a certain age, the mums find it challenging to present the same boundaries. Not all mums, but a lot of
no,
mums find it
mhm,
difficult to have that influence. And I realize that a lot of times when that man is missing, that
mhm,
boy doesn't have that different version of him to kind of bounce
mhm,
against if he needs to. You realize that there's a boundary here. There's a solid boundary that
mhm,
that that prevents you from being a man, because you're not the man of the house, you're the boy. You know, you're the boy, and one day you'll be a man. You know, so I feel just you presenting that was a really nice picture. You know, I think it was really nice the way that you even just shared how your dad helped you to learn to plait with mind to pony and all that kind of stuff, you know, and that really helps to break the narrative around, you know, even toxic masculinity, you know, that can happen. So thank you for sharing with that. I want to jump in, because listening to what you said about you wanted to be a journalist, you wanted to, you know, you was interested in people's business, you know, you wanted to know, you wanted to talk about, you know, you wanted to talk to people, you wanted to know people and so forth. You up and down, you was in the theaters, you know, you had a theater life, your dad was driving up and down the country, and that, you know, that was a big thing for you. And it kind of adds to, like, it links to why you do have an English and performing arts degree from De Montfort University. I can see, okay, that's what I can see. I can see the link now. And when you was doing that degree, when you was doing that degree at De Montfort, what was in your mind? What was the aspiration? Where was you going then?
I feel like at that point, it was definitely about performance in some way. It was definitely about being on screen. For me, I think I was very much like, you know what, I could do this acting thing. I could definitely be pursuing a career where acting and the arts and literature, that's going to be my craft. I think at that point, the necessity to really understand the theory behind how to do these things was something that was very much I would say, a burning desire, because, as I said, I'd already had the experience of being on stage and performing in terms of singing. I'd already had the experience of being on stage in terms of acting in theatre. I'd had this thing where I was known in school for having days off because I had to go and, you know, rehearse, or I had to go and perform. I remember having this buzz around the fact that this could happen. I think by the time I got to university, I was like, yo, this could be a thing. I could do this. You know? And also, I've got to pay homage to, you know, Jamelia, who is a friend of mine. For Birmingham at that time, it was a buzz. There were a lot of things going on where you were able to see yourself reflected in a way that before that, we were looking at America. And so the era in which perhaps, you know, me and you grew up, Herman, we, you know, seeing Jamelia on the television, on the box, you know, those of us who are old enough to remember that, on MTV, that was a big deal. You know, Jamelia was homegrown. And so for me, as somebody who was also in Birmingham and growing up in the space in a time where, okay, I can go to university and study this. I'm going to actually study something that I'm passionate about, that I love, that I enjoy. I definitely saw myself as an actor slash singer. You know, I wanted to do it all. And so even though I had grown up in a household where being an entrepreneur was something that was always positioned as achievable, you know, I grew up in a family where my mum owned business. You know, the nursery had always been a part of our lives, me and my sisters. We were there on the weekends, we were there after school. We knew about independence because my mum wasn't coming to pick us up after school. My dad wasn't coming to pick us up after school. I was going to get we're going to go on the bus. We're going to catch the bus from Great Bar to West Bromwich. My mum's going to meet us at West Bromwich bus station, possibly. And we just wait, because we had no mobile phone. We would just wait. And sometimes my mum would go, my mum would be too busy. So we have to find our way from West Bromwich to Bearwood at the time. So my mum's first nursery was in Bearwood. And those kinds of things at a very early age, they are life shaping. And so, as I said, by the time I got to university, De Montfort in Leicester, I was just like, number one, I'm living away from home. This is amazing. Number two, there are boys. This is amazing. Number three, I'm going to make new friends. This is amazing. And I guess that thing around having a degree, which is going to add strength to what I could possibly do, that excited me no end. And I think these are the things that I often reflect on when I look at my early childhood, how those tenets of the early experiences that I had really prepared me for that life in Leicester at De Montfort. And of course, as well, raving, like I already said at the start, you know, I love bashment. I like dancing. I like partying. And so being at university at that time for me was, you know, some of the best memories that I have of life and experience
Mm,
semi-independently. It was fascinating for me, and also meeting other Black people whose heritage wasn't necessarily rooted in the Caribbean or Jamaica specifically. Thinking about how I
mm,
connected with the diaspora. So, you know, my closest friend at university, even now to this day, her parents were born in Sierra Leone. Knowing that there was a big demographic of students there whose heritage was rooted in West Africa specifically, knowing that Blackness meant lots of different things to lots of different people, having a Birmingham
mm.
accent in a majority London centric space, even though we were in Leicester, a lot of the Black people that were there were, you know, from London. It really helped me to broaden my understanding of what Blackness meant in a diasporic
Mm,
uh, way of seeing things. And I always encourage people to not be limited by
yeah.
their city or by where they've grown up, knowing that it's so expansive. Our identities,
Mm,
particularly our racial and cultural identities, they are so expansive. And thinking about Blackness specifically, there is so much more to experience than the city, the place that you grew up in, but also recognizing that, again, it comes with great privilege to be able to do this and to experience life outside of your city or outside of your area.
mm,
These things are shaping me and me being in people's business. Even the routes that I would take from home to get to town, you know, I grew up in Great Bar. I wouldn't always catch the 51 from Scott Arms.
mm, mm.
That's a 16. So I'll go through Handsworth
Okay,
Woods.
wow, that Amstead Road and everything.
Because for me, that was the exciting route. That was the route where I'm going to see more than going down Warsaw Road. That's dry. I didn't want to catch the 51.
Yeah,
So even in terms of that, for me, it really shaped me, Herman, because it allows you to see life outside of your four walls and outside of your
yeah,
road. And I think it's
yeah,
important to bring this into this conversation since we really want to find out about Liz Pemberton, you know?
yeah. No, no. So it's not even just the 51, it's the 52 or the 107 or the
This is it.
113 or the, you know, or the
Definitely.
33. You've avoided, or the 91 or the night, like.
Yo, you're going way back now, Herman. I like that. Yeah, yeah. But it's that. It is definitely that.
Okay, so I seen that there was a real shift then. So I could see why you're doing what you're doing. I could see, you know, going to Mumford and doing English and doing performing arts, but then something switched. And then when you went to the University of Worcester, when you done your masters, it was around early years. And I mean, what was powerful for me, and I felt something happened here, you know, where I saw as a part of the early years, it was about race, culture, identity, and expectations. So it's almost like that was shaping you for where you are now or the direction you're in now. So what happened? What was the step change from the singing and dancing, you know, jazzy hands, clapping, ready to go all out, and then now early years, race and identity, expectations, like something has shifted. What happened? What was the step?
So towards the end of my degree at De Montfort, you know, I spent a lot of time studying, but I spent more time raving. I spent more time doing what I shouldn't have been doing. And it meant that
Mm,
the end result was that I got a 2-2 instead of a 2-1 or instead of a first. And grades mattered
mm,
in my household, right? Particularly to my dad. So bear in mind, I had got into De Montfort through clearing. So I'd already flopped my A levels at Sutton College. And I flopped my A
mm,
levels at Sutton College because that was the point at which the notion of forming one's identity really hit home. You will remember the era of, let's take it way back, the era of being in spaces where you're really recognizing the power that you have or don't have from being yourself. And I'm talking about these
mm,
extracurricular activities, theatre and drama and jazz hands and acting and singing, they were cool. But for me, the minute that I got to 17, I remember desperately like begging my mom to be able to go to my first dance. I remember saying
mm,
like, please, mommy, like I've got to go. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to experience so much things there. She was like, no, you're not 18. So you're not going.
Mm.
And I remember saying, no, but my best friend's going and she's a good girl, a good
Yeah.
girl. And she was like, I don't know, I'm not too sure. And in my head, I was like, by hook or by crook, I'm going to this dance. And that dance was a dance called Champagne Friday. Now, for me, going into this arena, this new arena where race, identity, and culture was at the forefront. And those of you who are not from Birmingham, who are here now, who do not know about Champagne Friday, or who are not as old as perhaps me and Herman, will not be familiar with the fact that this was a seminal dance. This was something that you just had to be there. These were the early kind of days of like really filming a dance, and you could access this not on your phone because we didn't have that then, but there was like a video VHS going around where you could be like, you could spot yourself in the video. But I was relatively young, but I had to be there. And after much begging and pleading, my mom let me go. I had the time of my life because it was the first time I was really kind of engrossed in what it meant to be Black, or my version of Blackness, what it meant to be amongst kin, what it meant to be around people who you were then going to see at college the week after and be able to have a commonality of talking about, were you there too? Do you remember when that tune came on? Did you see my man there? Was she there? That level of kind of community, sharing in things that was so unique even at the time, but you felt like you're also part of the in crowd. That for me at that point was more important than doing my A-levels. And so I say all that to say, when I failed my A-levels and I had to phone my dad and be like, yeah, I got 2 C's and a D, that was the scariest phone call I'd ever made.
Wow.
And my dad just said to me, well, you're going to have to do something and find a way to get to university. And I was thinking, I really am. And I remember being on the phones and begging and begging and begging, got the place at De Montfort. And it's like it happened all over again. This, now I'm in a different city and thinking about how I reaffirm my racialized identity, my culture, my ethnicity, and really thinking about that being more consuming than Liz as the theatre kid or Liz as the singer. Or, for me, it was more important to just be with my friends. And yeah, the studying was great and I enjoyed it and I loved it, but I also just liked what it meant to be me in this space. I had an opportunity to not reinvent myself, I would say to expand on who I was. And once again, this notion of being me in a space which was really affirming, being Black in that space, being at university, gathering more knowledge and gathering as well more kind of social kudos and social status again. It was great for me. And I think these formative things, when you are 17, when you're 16, when you're 18, when you're not, these things really, really do, they last and they stick with you. And so the transition of looking at what it meant to be part of community, knowing that I was also a carnival kid. So, my mum and dad would always take us to Notting Hill Carnival, Handsworth Carnival. We were always there. It was a big part of who we were. That identity forming was always happening, Herman. By the time I finished university and didn't get the grade that I wanted to get, I remember going back to my part-time job, which was at H&M, transferred from the Leicester H&M back to the Birmingham H&M. And I remember clearing rail. So you'd stand in the fitting room, the rail would build up with the clothes, you'd have to put them back on the shop floor. And I was just like, nah, I'm better than this. This can't be me. This can't be the portion. This is not what I want to do. And I remember then thinking, oh, you know what? I could create myself a role at my mom's nursery. How about I really get into people's business, and think about a role which is like empowering the staff that work there. Because sometimes some of the staff looks a bit like, oh, I don't want to be here. They look like how I felt on the H&M floor. And I remember going to my mom when I finished university and saying, have you ever thought about having a staff training coordinator? And she was like, what do you mean? And I said, I could go in and really like boost the staff morale and really like make them excited about doing the work that they do, just finding out about them as people. My mom was like, okay, but you haven't got no qualifications. I was like, no, but I'll get them. And so that was my first like step in. Well, I say my first step, but it meant that I was able to go into this business that my mom already had and build something that I had thought about and I had imagined. Bear in mind, Herman, I'd always been involved in some element to do with the nursery. Even as an 11-year-old, I was going in and teaching the kids who would be there after school about something. So when I went in as a staff training coordinator, it allowed me then to see how much racialized identities, culture and ethnicity formed the glue that bonded people, the team that works there, but their relationships with the children. And I realized that we have to make sure we're amplifying that in terms of the connections that we have with children and families, because it isn't enough to have an NVQ level 3. You've also got to have some social currency, and you've also got to be very human and stay true to who you are whilst you're doing this role. That connection is absolutely, it's essential. And that, I think, was the thing that ignited me to think much more deeper about what this connection meant. And so there was an opportunity for me to do the MA, but before that I had to get my MVQ level 2. And then I had to get my NVQ level 3, because my mom wasn't going to just allow me to be there because I'm her daughter. You know, I had to study and get my qualifications. And then the opportunity for me to do the masters had come after being and spending that time with the staff, the practitioners, the educators that were there, but also with the families of the children. Because I wanted to know why they chose that nursery. What was it about that nursery? And they'd always say to me, because it's the black nursery, we know the food's going to be good, or we know that you're going to cream the kids' faces, or we know that you're not going to stand for any foolishness. There's going to be certain things that are really impressed upon the children, which is rooted in culture, which is rooted in an old school way of doing things. Then, you know, those boundaries, those things around behavior and discipline, it's something that the families valued, and it's something that I felt needed recognition in a formalized sense, in an academic sense. So the opportunity to study that at master's level, to me, it was a no-brainer. I wanted to do that. I think was the beginning of this thing of what I'm doing now.
Wow. Okay, look, we're definitely we're definitely going to need to do a part 2. You know, we're going to this is so. It's so warmed up, and I know we need to finish in a few minutes. My next question is, you know, so you said it's the black nursery. You know, this is something that, you know, whether it was organic, whether it was something that was not intentional but just happened, you know, because people are drawn towards sameness, so to speak. But then you are called the Black Nursery Manager. What happened? What was the inspiration for such the obvious name? What was the inspiration?
Going against the grain, a little bit of shock factor, a little bit of letting people know there's nothing wrong with being unapologetically black, a little bit of me also drawing on the cultural currency that blackness holds, the weight that it holds. We shape everything in terms of popular culture, in terms of the way in which people speak, the way in which people engage. We shape everything. And when I say that with total conviction. We have a lot to offer in terms of community cohesion, in terms of ways in which we view parenting, child rearing, things that we have drawn on in terms of lessons from our own grandparents and wider family. And so being the Black Nursery Manager wasn't just it wasn't a play on words. It was to kind of say, it does what it says on the tin. I'm black, I'm a nursery manager, now I'm a former nursery manager, and everybody knew us as the Black Nursery. And people knew that when they came there and I opened the door, or my deputy manager opened the door, or any of the people that worked there, although they weren't all black, they understood you're signing up to something that is specifically cultural. And you're all going to get that same training. How you interpret that training is up to you, but you're all getting it. And so there was something that was very culturally safe about the practice that I wanted to establish in the nursery, particularly when my mom was like, okay, here you go. Here are the reins. Do what you're doing. I'm going to spend more time at the nursery in Bearwood. You can be here in Edgbaston. There was something everybody was signing up to. It was a cultural contract. And so doing this work in anti-racism is to bring forward the conversations that need to be had, and they need to be kept on the table. We can't talk about diversity and inclusion and leave race off the table. We can't talk about making things inclusive and leave race off the table. A child's racialized identity, their cultural identity is sacred. Their religious or their non-religious identity is sacred. And I think there's something around making sure we amplify that from a very early age, and making children feel culturally safe is absolutely essential. If we want to raise confident, assured, proud human beings, that is the next generation. That is society, a society that we want to envision. We're not going to do that if we quietly say the word black. You know,
Mm.
in everybody's experience of life, culture, racialized identity, that sense of oneself is always amplified. That should be the same for Black children, particularly in this climate where it's hostile, it's racist. You know, these are the things that we need to not shy away from. There's nothing wrong with talking to children about celebrating who they are, but it doesn't mean that if I'm talking about being Black, I'm discounting what it might mean to be South Asian or East or Southeast Asian or white. I'm just not censoring whiteness in the work that I do. I'm censoring
Mm.
Blackness. And so, as I said,
Mm.
I make no apology for that. Calling myself in the business the Black Nursery Manager, as I said, it's just so everybody gets it straight from the start.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What a foundation. What a foundation. And I can see where we have to go next. Because we have to do part two. We're
I hope
finishing
so,
now.
Herman. I've loved
we're,
this conversation.
we're rounding up. We knew that we was gonna finish at 12:45 today. So we're just rounding up. Um, I want to say thank you for coming as yourself and bringing your whole self, you know, and for sharing and helping us to get an understanding of who the person is behind the persona, who is the person behind the Black nursery manager, who's the person behind this business owner, who's the person behind this thought leader, and people being able to connect the dots and people being able to see how eclectic the life has been in the tapestry of the background and the humanity and the competence and the understanding of one's ethnicity and so forth. And I feel that it's a great place to be able to create and build upon as we go deeper into your work, as we go deeper into exactly what you do, the nuances, talking about those things and so forth. But I just want to say thank you so much for being with us today, Liz. And I want to give you the opportunity to share as well for people that want to find out more about your work and want to find out more about the explicit work that you're doing and want to get in touch with you. Where do you want to direct them?
Thank you as well, Herman, for having me, for hosting me, for being such a brilliant interviewer. People want to find out more about my work, I would always advise they go onto Instagram and follow the Black Nursery Manager. That's where I'm kind of most current in terms of updating people as to what I'm doing, where I'm going to be, what training I'm offering, what consultancy I'm offering. And also my website, www.theblacknurserymanager.com.
Okay. Thank you so much, Liz. And I want to say thank you for everyone that has watched, everyone that's listened, everyone that has watched the recording, you know, and I hope that you found out much more about Liz. And we're definitely going to touch base and we're going to do a part two and we're going to get into some explicit narratives around Liz's work and to find out more about anti-racism and why she does what she does. But until then, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being with us. And thank you very much. And may you have a great day, everyone. Bye.